Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to the Hurricane Hurry Technical Talk. My name is Mary Boyer. I'm a disaster risk management specialist at the World Bank. And we want to invite you to this really interactive tech talk about a game that will challenge you to make financial decisions about disaster response in a complex environment. Before handing it over to our expert facilitators, Jano and Pablo, I want to give you a bit of a background as to how we got here and why we think this is an important way to showcase the work that has been done with the ACP EU program. So in 2013, 2014, a consensus was forming that it was very important for countries to be able to not only build physical resilience, but also financial resilience to ensure that the disasters that were happening did not only cause great physical, could not only be protected against the physical impacts, but also there could be tools in place that would help countries to mitigate the impacts on their economies. So coming with the financial protection strategies was a very important trend that started in around 2013, 14, 15. Through ACP EU support, we started the Caribbean Disaster Risk Financing Technical Assistance Program in Belize, Jamaica, St. Lucia, and Grenada, with the main key activities supporting an overall objective of helping countries strengthen their financial protection. We did this through exploring public financial management, through exploring relationships with the insurance sector, through exploring relationships with data management and coordination around risk analytics, but ultimately towards helping countries build financial protection strategies and share this knowledge with a global South-South knowledge exchange. Also, within that, we designed Hurricane Hurry as a learning tool to help ministries of finance and other stakeholders involved in disaster response to really live through the challenges that surround making these financial decisions. So we initially established and developed a Hurricane Hurry in the form of an in-person board game where we played in workshops and stakeholder meetings and really helped in a live setting how to relay this kind of information and decision making. And of course, with the challenges of COVID, we were presented with a new challenge of doing this virtually. And so we've worked with an expert facilitating group and games designer company to come up with this virtual version of Hurricane Hurry. So, and this is our international debut, the first time we've really played this with a global audience. So we appreciate your perseverance as you take on these new roles in the game as sector directors and ministers within your country. So over to you, Jano and Pablo. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Hello, I'm Jano.
Hello.
Bienvenue.
I'm Pablo. Hola.
So as Mary mentioned, this is a co-learning experience. We'd like to invite all of you to actually turn on your camera for the gameplay. We're going to be getting to know each other, and we're going to be having lots of one-on-one discussions, small group discussions. So it's going to be actually a little bit more difficult for you to play off camera because you'll need to be typing in the chat while also keeping an eye on how your teammates and others are playing while the camera's on. Did you want to say something in Spanish?
We are particularly grateful to those of you who are going to be going through the translation. And we are grateful to the translators because when there's interaction, translation becomes more complex. I am now speaking slowly. We may end up rushing. If any of you does not speak English, but speaks Español, Português, Portuñol, or Francais, please type in the chat which is your language so that we can begin to plan for future activities. Thank you.
So in this game, your goal is to build prosperity. Thumbs up signify productive investments in this game. Can you show me your thumbs up on your screen? Great, I'm seeing lots of thumbs up. For example, if you are a member of cabinet, in this game, thumbs up says you are actually making sectoral investments. And a successful thumbs up gives you 1 prosperity point. and you want to get as many prosperity points as you can. The player with the largest number of successful thumbs up is going to be the winner.
Of course, you cannot just do all the thumbs up you want and be safe. Unfortunately for the planet, there are shocks out there that could affect your investments. If you do this, you could be swept away by a shock. Jano is going to show you how we represent the threat of shocks. This is a die to represent the historical probability of an extreme event impacting your nation on a season. If we roll a 6, that's a shock, and the shock can wipe out your investment. It becomes bad. So when a shock hits, if you're not protected, your investment is wiped out, you lose your thumbs up, and unfortunately, you get a crisis. You get a broken heart. However, thank goodness, you can invest not only in the pursuit of prosperity, but also you can invest in protection with a shield. Can you please show us your shields with one hand? Thank you. So if you have a shield and a shock happens, the shield protects against that shock. It's used up. And if you have any thumbs up, any investments, they stay protected.
So you have a decision to make for this season. How much you want to invest in protection versus prosperity. We'll be rolling the dice twice, representing a short season. Each time we roll, we could get a shock or not. You have 2 investment units, so you can do this, 2 thumbs up. If you think the risk of a shock is low, you want to get those prosperity points. Or you can do this. You will be completely protected from the risk of shocks. It will give you 0 points, but a guarantee of no crisis and no broken hearts. Or you can hedge your risk. You could have 1 thumbs up and 1 shield.
It's up to you. Do you want for this, for that, or for that? If a shock happens and you don't have protection, you'll have a crisis and you'll lose your investments. And you'll be left with a broken heart, which signifies a crisis. Every season, there will be a countdown. And just like in real life, you have to make decisions with what you know. And those decisions have to happen before the season begins. You have to sign the papers and do the check. So right now you have only 20 seconds to make your decisions. You can either turn your camera on and show us what you do, or you can type in the chat how many thumbs up, how many shields. They have to add up to 2. Make your decisions. What are you going to do? Start showing. I see that Mark is going for hyper protection.
Mary's hedging her bets.
David is going for both thumbs up. And I see that Henriette is going for 1 and 1. Make your decisions. You have 5 seconds. Keep it showing. Don't change. 4. You may need to type. 3, 2, 1. And deadline. Stop. If you didn't make an investment, as seems to be the case for many of you, guess what? You failed to invest in prosperity or in protection. So we see that some of you went for a lot of risk-taking like David, some for a lot of protection like Mark, some for 1 and 1 like Henriette. Let's see what happens. Jano will roll the dice.
Now let's roll the dice. We'll roll twice to find out what the season brings. Remember, anything but a 6 were okay, but what did we get? It's a 6. It's a shock. If you invested in at least 1 shield, go ahead and use that shield for protection. You can put that hand down. No shield, you have a crisis. Your investment was just wiped out, all of it. You need to show both thumbs down. And of course, with all of your investment wiped out, you're going to carry a broken heart.
So David has already lost all his investments. Some of the rest of you have something left. This is a normal die, by the way. It's not loaded or anything like that. Let's go for the second roll. A 3, no problem. So while Mark is safe, he has an extra shield that wasn't used. Henriette got a thumbs up. She just won 1 point. So Henriette has 1 prosperity point. Mark has 0 points. David has 0 points, but also a broken heart.
So now you know how to play the game. In this game, the player with the most thumbs up is the winner. The player with the most broken hearts is in the most trouble. Some of you, as we go forward and play a few seasons, might get more thumbs up or more broken hearts than others. We'll give our condolences to anyone with a broken heart, and we'll be congratulating our prospering fellow players with the most thumbs up. But remember, you're only a roll of the dice away from the chances of having all your investment wiped out. So now you know how the game works. The goal, remember, is to build prosperity with the best investment strategy. We're going to go to our virtual game platform. We're going to show you what that's going to look like.
Before we send you there, you will very soon see a screen share from our colleagues who will show after you see a blue screen that will welcome you, and maybe you will be invited to write your name or nickname. You will see a screen that looks like this. You will become a director.
Each of you is now a director in charge of a sector. So it's up to you to figure out how to invest to make your sector prosper while being protected from shocks. In the game, we'll experience many seasons, and each season this time will involve 10 rolls of the dice, 10 chances to get a shock, 6. Any other roll, you're okay. The winner at the end of the game will have the most thumbs up. But let's start with the first season.
So one of our colleagues will add to the chat a link. Please try to use Chrome or Firefox or a recent version of Safari. If you're using an old browser like Netscape, it may not work well. So colleagues, please share the link in the chat. If you click there or if you copy paste into a browser, you should be able to see Hurricane Harry. Welcome to Hurricane Harry. Can you wave or somehow signal that you see it? Thank you.
Okay,
Perfect.
great. You're already prospering. Now, all you need to do is click the line that says director to expand your game and see your decision line. As you make your investment decisions, you can use the +1. If you want to adjust, you can use the -1 button to add or subtract thumbs and shields. You'll be automatically spending coins. And as you can see, you have 10 investment options, and you have 11 coins to spend this season. If you buy a thumbs up or a shield, each one costs 1 coin.
So we'll roll the die 10 times. Instead of rolling the physical object, there will be a digital randomizer. The numbers will come at the top of the screen. And like before, if a 6 happens, that's an extreme event impacting you. That's a shock. You would need a shield. If a 6 is rolled and you have no shield, you get a crisis, you lose 3 thumbs up, and the lasting setback caused by this crisis could stay with you and it will show as a broken heart. We will roll 10 times, 1 at a time. So if you get another shock, you can lose more thumbs up and get another crisis, another broken heart. When the shock happens, if you have a shield, it's used up and you're protected. and bravo, you avoid a crisis.
But when you have an ongoing crisis, you have a shock because a 6 is rolled. There is a way that you can avoid a broken heart. If you have the money, you can pay 2 coins for crisis response to deal with the impacts of the shock. If you can't pay, you will lose 3 of your thumbs up and you'll get a broken heart. But if you can pay 2 coins, the broken heart is removed and you only lose 1 thumbs up instead of 3. But for now, it looks like you won't have enough coins to respond to a crisis. So it's up to you to invest the best you can. How many thumbs up? How many shields?
Are you ready to make decisions? We can see that many of you have started. Some of you, 3 or so, have yet to start. Make sure to start spending your coins and click the plus, add the shields, add the coins. The countdown is coming soon. You will have about 20 seconds from when the countdown starts. And David, I suggest we start the countdown now. Good luck with your decisions. Everyone can adjust anything between now and the end of the countdown. Drum roll. 10 seconds. About 5 seconds. And time's up.
Now, let's see what each of you has decided for this season. Do you see the beige bar that says plenary? If you click plenary, you can see how your investments compare to everyone else. Those with the most thumbs up will be stacked at the top. You may see this change when anyone gets a crisis, and the most broken hearts will move to the bottom. Now, some of you have invested in a lot of thumbs up, Mark and Mary and Pablo. Some of you have got a lot of shields just in case. Someone anonymous, Josias, Henriette, Sebastian, Rosella. Rosella didn't have quite enough time maybe in those 20 seconds to use all of her investment options. And then some of you have a few shields. Maybe you're hedging your bets. As the season progresses, you'll be able to see updates on your screen, and you'll see which directors get into a crisis and maybe wind up with a broken heart.
So for each season, the dice are going to be rolled 10 times. David, send it away. Let's see how it goes. At the top of the screen, you should be able to see the values. Let's get it started. Event 1 was a 1, no problem. A 6 is a trouble. We didn't get a shock. Let's move on to the next event. A 4, no problem. Those who invested in a lot of thumbs up, like me, we're happy for now. Next one. Again, no problem. Some of you may be wondering what's wrong with this die. Why are there no disasters? Well, we're happy. Good luck for now. Uh-oh. Guess what? Those of us who invested only 1 shield, we just got
a shock.
The 4th out of 10 is a shock. I really hope there is no more shocks, because otherwise I and Mark and Mary would be in serious trouble.
So if you had a shield available, you'll see it was used to protect you and it's just turned gray. It can't be used again. If there's another shock, you need another shield.
Moving on. Whew, halfway through, no problem. Still no problem. Oh, good. We have only 3 rolls to go. And 2 to go. Yes, I really hope we don't get a 6. Yes. So what you can see is that some of us got very lucky. There was no shock that was not protected for.
To build prosperity with as many thumbs up as possible, you wanted to invest in just the right number of shields, but how to know what is the right number? So we can say congratulations if you did that this time. Looks like Mark and Mary and Pablo had just one shield and we only rolled one shot.
Henriette and Josias, you got a lot of underutilized shields.
So if you've got all these shields left over, are you thinking maybe you overinvested in protection? But remember, we're going to go into the next round without enough shields. You can carry heavy losses and get broken hearts.
If you look at the top of the screen, you'll see your current status. How many thumbs up in the center, some number between 5 and 9, most likely. How many broken hearts to the right? As of now, no one got any. And how many coins you did not have any use for the coins you had because there was no broken heart. So now we can move on to the next season.
So let's start season 2. Now that you're all seasoned directors, we're going to send you into breakout groups to join teams. Your teams represent different countries. And before you go into groups, we want to explain what awaits you. So please pay close attention. When you enter the game, you're going to meet the Minister of Finance and you're going to join your cabinet meeting. So the first thing you need to do is to choose your role as a cabinet member. You can click on the icon to choose a sector, or if you prefer to be a reporter, you can click journalist. There should be 3 or more directors within your cabinet of emergency management, transport, tourism, etc. You'll be doing just the same tasks as you did with the shields and thumbs up, making your investments. There must also be a Minister of Finance. The Minister of Finance has an initial budget of just 2 coins. And the Minister of Finance is going to be making decisions for the cabinet's use on disaster risk financing, whether to spend coins to support the cabinet in managing crises. So you may need to negotiate a bit. You can discuss in your cabinet how you want to make your investments. However, the Minister of Finance has no power over directors' investment decisions. You decide how to invest for your own sector. And you can influence the Minister of Finance, but the Minister of Finance decides how to spend those 2 coins for disaster risk financing. Now, if you have a journalist in your cabinet meeting, those news updates that your journalist is going to post, they're just like tweets. Keep them coming, short and sweet. The updates are going to be heard across the region, could even influence future policy. Like in the real world, the journalist can report observed facts, what's going on in your cabinet, informed opinions, has sources, questionable positions, or any capricious views they may care to share.
So Mark, if we could go to the previous slide, please. When you enter the breakout room, and you will enter a door we'll explain shortly, this is what you will see, and you will be invited to click on the icon to choose your role. When you do that, a game board will open.
Your game board.
Your game board, right. Now we can see what you're likely to see. Be intuitive. If you click on the director role, you will expand and see your choices. You can also see what your teammates are making. You may also be curious about what others in the plenary in other teams are doing. You can, if it changed, go to the top right and change your name from anonymous to what you want. And your first job as a cabinet, your first cabinet decision will be to name your country team. You could be team 1 or you could be whatever you want. Don't spend too much time on that because you'll have many other decisions to make. At any time you can expand from clicking team to see your teammates or expand into plenary. All directors will start the season. And by the way, on the screen, you can see now that on the left, you can also, top left, you can change how you see what quickly. All directors will start the season with 11 coins. enough to make your 10 investments, with one coin left over, which is not enough to avert a crisis if it hits you, unless the Minister of Finance supports you with a coin. When a crisis happens, if you don't have enough, you may need to beg your minister to give you some coins. There will be pop-out windows that explain if you have enough coins, push the button to avert a crisis. If you don't have enough, maybe the Minister of Finance has to push a button to give you a coin. Negotiate, make decisions under pressure. You will not have infinite time. Remember, there may not be enough coins. When you're hit by a crisis, you'll see the buttons, be intuitive. Hopefully your Minister of Finance will be savvy enough. Will the Minister of Finance give coins or not?
And remember, if there's a journalist in your cabinet meeting, they may be reporting on your crisis. They're going to be posting quick insights, updates, broadcast across the region, and you'll see the news flashes popping up on your game board. If there are too many, you can also minimize that. Ready to go into your country teams? Start your cabinet meetings. We're going to give you less than 4 minutes to make your decisions together to discuss. There will be a short countdown and no investments are allowed after the deadline. You can return to plenary, leave your Zoom breakout room when you've finished investing if you like. Otherwise, you'll be brought back after the countdown. And after 10 rolls, we'll see which is the country team with the most thumbs up, the team with the most broken hearts, the deepest trouble. So as you go into your cabinet meetings, ministers of finance, we invite you to make sure that your directors use all of their investment options in the limited time to decide. Journalists, you can begin posting news to the region. How about starting with a hello from your country team? Now, when you get sent into breakout groups, this is very important. Please note the number of your breakout group. It will be shown at the top of your Zoom screen. This is your team number. So after Zoom sends you to breakouts, go to the game platform in your browser and you'll see numbered doors. It's going to look like this. You just click on the door with your Zoom breakout number and you will enter your team. You can still talk to your teammates in Zoom, but from then on, you can actually stay on the game board in your browser. There's no need to return to the Zoom screen.
So, about to start your intense time as cabinet. Zoom colleagues, can you please send people into breakout rooms? You'll have about 4 minutes. Good luck making decisions. Okay, welcome back.
So I think there was a little island hopping at the beginning of your cabinet meetings.
Like in the real experience of your first day of work, it turns out that some of us went to the wrong office. I happened to get a job, but I couldn't talk with my peers. So I apologize to Sebastian and Kerry and my Minister of Finance because I made decisions without hearing what others were saying. I got only one shield, again, hoping it works.
But some of you are very risk averse. Someone who remains anonymous is actually they're the director of emergency management. They take their job extremely seriously. And they have spent most of their budget on 8 shields with only 2 thumbs up.
I am anonymous.
So Natalie, if you want, in the top right, you can change your name from anonymous to something else, either your real name or a fictional one. So what patterns do you see?
So if you like, you can go to plenary and you can take a look at how other teams have played compared to your team. You can also expand it and you can see how all the directors in each team have allocated their budgets.
It's interesting that the team Resilience for All has Henriette with only 2 shields and Iria with 5 shields. So even though you share the space and the conversation, Of course, different people will make different decisions.
Yeah.
It's the very nature of government that different people make different decisions.
Not surprisingly, emergency management is much more risk averse than transport appears to be.
So,
Are you ready to see what nature throws at your island? In this season, because different countries experience different weather effects, each country is going to get their own roll of the die with the digital randomizer, and there will be 10 rolls for the season. Are you ready to get started?
David, get us rolling.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and do the first roll now. 5, 5, and 4.
Okay.
Everybody's okay.
Yeah.
I happen to not see the place where the dice roll result happened. Can you guide
Okay. Yeah. It doesn't look like the dice roll showing in plenary right now. I'm going to have to, I'll get that
Okay.
fixed.
All right. So David is becoming the voice of nature. If you don't hear a 6, we're fine.
All right. Next roll. Oh, 4, 3, and 6.
Who got the 6?
Who got the 6?
Brussels.
Poor
Uh-oh.
Rosella lost the shield.
But
Moving on.
Rosella is well protected. She's only used one of her 3 shields. Let's keep going.
2, 3, and 2.
Nice.
3, 3, and 3.
All happy, especially those of us who didn't spend much money in shields.
No
1,
flash floods, no landslides.
3, and 2.
Keep it coming. That was halfway through the season. That was event 5.
1, 5, and 4.
Almost a shock, but no shock.
5, 3, and 4.
And we see the news. One of the journalists says that it's coming along as a great season. You can see the news reports in the bottom left of your screen. Okay, 2 to go.
5, 2, and 3.
Such good news.
Oh,
And
5, 5, and 6. Brussels fighters.
Ooh.
Rosella seems to be quite protective. 2 of her 3 shields have been used.
So we've completed this season. How do those of you who invested heavily in protection feel?
If you had a crystal ball and you could see the future, you would assign less shields and more thumbs up, right? Because now you can see at the team level, the team regional resilience has a net total of 25 thumbs up, whereas the team resilience for all has 27 thumbs up. So as of now, the other team is beating my team. Poor Rosella, she's alone. The smallest country doesn't have enough players to try to compile thumbs up, but she keeps trying, and she got a lot of shocks, but she did well.
So this completes season 2. Before you start revising your strategies based on this season, the next season is going to be similar, but a little bit different. Remember, your country teams are all in the Caribbean region, where hurricanes are a major risk. So now your decision-making will need to consider the potential impact of hurricanes, big or small, which can cause catastrophic losses. Some hurricane seasons could put your island in the path of a hurricane. Different countries clearly experience different impacts each season, depending on the hurricanes and their path. Nature's complex. So how are we going to know if your island is hit by a hurricane or not? For simplification purposes, we have created a deck of cards to represent the random chances of your island nation being in the path of a hurricane and what size that hurricane may be.
So we're going to have a deck of cards with 20 cards. And in this deck of cards, there will be 3 layers, 3 levels of what happens with hurricanes in your region. A majority of cards, 16 cards, will look like this. it means that there is no hurricane aiming for your nation. You're safe. If your nation gets one of these cards, you roll, like before, a 6-sided die. Now, some of you may experience less fortune because 3 of the cards have this small hurricane. This is a hurricane category 1, 2, or 3. It is an 8-sided die. When we roll the die for your island, if you're in the path of a small hurricane, you could get a 6 like before, which is a shock like Rosella experienced, or you could get a 7 or an 8. And now there's more chances that you will get the impacts of a shock because the hurricane can shock your infrastructure, your tourism, and so on. Now, I'm afraid, my friends, that one of the 20 cards is a big hurricane, category 4 or 5. We may roll a 12-sided die where 6, 7, 8, all the way to 12 can be a shock. Or maybe a 20-sided die where a 6 or more is trouble, is the impact of an extreme event on you. Which one you will get, you don't know, but you have to make decisions like in the real world, not knowing if a hurricane is coming your way. The most likely scenario is that you get no hurricanes. So when considering your investments, we'll see how you do, how many shields, how many thumbs up. You will go into your cabinet meeting, make your decisions, and when you come back, we will draw a hurricane card.
Thanks to strong tax revenues last year, your Minister of Finance again has 2 coins to spend on disaster risk financing this season. So if you're worried about winding up with a crisis in your sector and not having enough coins to respond, you have to pay 2 for crisis response, you might want to discuss with your Minister of Finance whether you can count on assistance later if you need it. You want to avoid a crisis in your sector. You don't want your country team gaining a broken heart. But the Minister of Finance may also consider purchasing small hurricane insurance. An insurance policy for your nation costs 1 coin per season, and it will pay out if certain conditions are met. These are described in the insurance contract. You'll be able to see this and discuss the details in your cabinet meeting. Note that any director can also support the Minister of Finance by giving a coin to help pay for the insurance premium. Okay, everybody ready?
And if I may, David, if you're hearing me, I hope that you can manually bring the budget back to 11 coins per player, if that's doable.
Yeah, let me take a look. It seems like we've had some sort of bug.
Like in the real world, there can be accounting glitches that make some people find no budget and some people have a surprise abundance of coins. What we can tell each of you, dear directors, is that you start the season, or you should start the season, with only 11 coins. If you find more coins in your bank account, those coins are not yours. You are hereby instructed to not use more than 11 unless the Minister of Finance gives you more. So you will be going into your breakout rooms. You will have your cabinet meeting, have a conversation with the Minister of Finance. Should you get insurance or not? And how many shields should each player get? Good luck making decisions. Assume you only have 11 coins, even though the budget shows 21. It's not your coins. And we'll give you 7 minutes or less.
Journalists, keep us informed.
Zoom managers, please send people into their groups again.
Rocky cabinet meetings. We can go to plenary and see how the teams compare across countries.
The time just elapsed. And let me tell you one thing. Imagine a real world cabinet of ministers having to migrate into Zoom. You, like them, have just experienced the complexity of talking with each other and making decisions through virtual platforms that are improvable.
So we'd like to hear from ministers of finance. Did anyone decide to purchase hurricane insurance, the small insurance policy?
Yeah, on the regional, or rather Resilience for All team, I think it was a no-brainer for our country because we really want to maximize our investments and be competitive, attract a lot more tourists. And so I wanted to purchase the insurance as a way to, protect our investments. And I instructed ministers to really, increase the amount of thumbs up that they were allocating.
So that payout of 6 coins, if you have a crisis, was worth it for you, even though you may not experience any. You may invest in the policy and it may not pay out this season. We're going to draw your hurricane cards now to see what each country is facing for this season.
Here's a deck of cards. Wishing you good luck.
Resilience for all.
Resilience for all. You're going to get this card. Okay, you got lucky. You're going to get a 6-sided die.
No hurricane track near your country.
Let's see about regional resilience. Also,
So
6-sided die.
doesn't look like you're in the path of a hurricane at this point either this season.
And finally, Brussels fighters, you were so unfortunate last year. Let's see if you get equal bad fortune this time. Same.
Okay.
What are the chances of no country getting in the path of a hurricane? It's somewhat decent. David, let's assign a 6-sided die to each of the teams and start rolling.
All right.
So you can still get an extreme event. If a 6 is rolled, that's a shock. Maybe you've got a flash flood. Maybe you've got a fluke hailstorm, wipes out your agriculture. All kinds of things can still happen. And you have
right.
those shields to
Our
protect you.
first roll is all 3s.
How convenient.
Next, 5, 6, and 5. Regional resilience got a 6. They're doing
And
Everyone had enough
Everyone had
shields.
at least one shield. All sectors are okay.
But it looks like the director of tourism, which may be me, don't tell anyone, has just run out of shields. So, Minister Rashmin, I hope you look fondly into the tourism sector should we get another shock. Moving on.
6, 5, and 1.
Mary's team seems to have enough shields for now.
And yeah, so they invested well so far. All sectors are okay.
We see the news that Brussels fighters has experienced a crisis. I'm afraid that poor Rosella did not have the time or the inclination to buy shields, and there is no Minister of Finance position. Mr. or Madam Minister of Finance must have been fired, and guess what? No time to send cash for crisis response. So Rosella, our hearts are with you. The TV crews are going to your nation and showing all the suffering and all the inability of government to take care of its citizens. We wish you survival. Moving on.
Next roll, 1, 3, and 4.
Moving on.
5, 3, and 5.
Okay.
6, 4, and 5.
So we see that in Mary's team, they got a second shock, but everyone had at least 2 shields. So with 7 events out of 10, everyone seems to be fine so far, but some of them are kind of nervous.
All right. 6, 2, and 5.
Uh-oh. Look at what's happening.
Uh-oh.
Henriette.
Resilience for all is in trouble.
Now
Nobody
this-
panic. Remain calm and this will be dealt with. Go ahead, Pablo.
You've got a good Minister of Finance.
I knew
Let's
that.
see.
Now, I want to remind Henriette and Josias that it may look like you have a lot of coins, but you only have 1 coin left. So unless the Minister of Finance sends you a coin, you may be in trouble. But actually, Mary, can you signal, because okay, looks like something happened. Can you describe what happened?
Well, I gave coins to Josias, and he appears to have used them to resolve the crisis. And I also attempted to give a coin to Henriette. I'm not sure if it came through, because I don't believe that I've received my payout yet from my insurance.
Well, you didn't get a payout because your nation didn't get the hurricane event that triggers the payout. As a result, I am sorry to say that the coin that you used to buy insurance, which could have been used to support poor Henriette and her Directorate of Transport, you paid for an insurance that didn't pay out because you didn't get into a hurricane. But as is often the case, shocks happen even without hurricanes. There could be a big cloud and so on. So,
okay.
So extreme rainfall is not a hurricane.
And we have to move on. We have 2 events to go.
All right, next roll, 1, 5, and 3.
We're very relieved. Last roll of the dice. Oh no!
4, 6, and 1.
I am the one in trouble. And I am hereby begging my dear Minister of Finance, Rashmin, would you be able to send me some coins to avert the crisis? Thank you.
But
I now can pay and I feel very relieved. Whew. Note, however, that one of my thumbs up has become a thumbs down because I was hit by a shock that I wasn't prepared for. I would have lost 3 thumbs up, but with the support of the Ministry of Finance, I managed to avert that crisis. No broken heart, but I lost 1 thumbs up. That was the last event.
So you had to do some spending to respond to the crisis, but you don't carry forward the impacts, so you don't have a broken heart.
What we're going to do now is to move on to the last 4th season. Of course, in the real world, it keeps coming 1 year after the next. For the time being, we'll have 1 more session, 1 more season where a bit more choice will be at the hands of ministers of finance.
And we heard your frustration when that insurance payout was for hurricanes, for small hurricanes, not for any old shock that you might be hit with. So in this season, we're going to give you some additional disaster risk financing instruments to consider. Last season, you got lucky. No island was hit by a hurricane, but what about the future? We're still going to be drawing cards for each of your islands. And in this season, whether the hurricane is small or big, whether we roll the 8-sided dice or the 20 or the multi-sided, even larger risk dice, do you think that you're going to have enough coins to deal with it? You and your cabinet need to manage the chances with more. What if there are more shocks than shields? Of course, you could invest in a lot of shields. Many of you have tried this strategy, but most years that would probably seem wasteful, as the most likely scenario is that you don't get a shock or that you draw a card, no hurricane. You're not in the path this season.
So until now, the Minister of Finance could either provide no support or provide a little bit of funding or just buy small insurance. But perhaps your cabinet would like to consider ways to access more funds to get timely help for your country to deal with many shocks should they happen, especially if a hurricane hits. So fortunately for you, the World Bank has been working with partners to make disaster risk financing available to you in multiple options for your fictional countries here and for many real countries in the real world. In this game, each Minister of Finance will be able to consider getting hurricane insurance, big or small, as well as perhaps a contingent loan. These financial instruments are based on contracts that are linked to the occurrence of hurricanes. So which card will you draw? Only the Minister of Finance can commit to the terms on behalf of the country. Everyone else can give advice, ideas. They can even give coins from their own budget. Remember, you start with 11. Whatever the tool says, you know that the reality is you start with 11. You need 10 for buying thumbs up and shields. The remaining coin you may keep for yourself or you may give to the Minister of Finance.
Thankfully, some of your ministers are true experts. So I'd like to ask Rashmin, could we hear from you a little bit about these three instruments that are available this season for the ministers of finance to discuss with their cabinets?
We know also that Mary is an expert. So Mary and Rashmin, over to you.
Mary, how about you could talk to us a little bit about the difference between big hurricane insurance and small hurricane insurance, and how does a contingent loan work?
Sure, happy to. So we know that we already know what small insurance is. So think about that. If you know, instruments like CRIF, or in Africa, African risk capacity, or PCRIFI in the Pacific, that are, small amounts of sovereign protection that countries can purchase. Big insurance is maybe that more sizable asset protection that, in this case, it's cost three coins. So it's more of a sizable investment. You have to understand if you really think you have the budget to afford it. And because it could be wasteful if you don't experience a hurricane, or it could be perceived as wasteful. And you get 5 coins if you're hit by a category 1, 2, or 3, and 10 coins if you're hit by a category 4 or 5. Now, the contingent loan is another appealing option that costs nothing up front. You just have to, it's like a contract. You have to propose your terms to the financier. In this case, I think the financier is David. And you will be asked to describe how much you want to borrow and how much you will repay over time with interest, of course. So propose something reasonable, and David will take that into consideration, so that once you also have to decide the size of the hurricane for which you will receive the payout, or which the payout will be triggered. So you have to make all those decisions, then it'll go over to David for decision, final decision. So your task is to determine, with limited budget you do have, which of these options is best suited for your country.
So during your cabinet meeting, each director must decide and invest how many shields and thumbs. And of course, it will depend on whether or not your Minister of Finance gets some of those instruments, maybe with some of your coins. So we will give you, again, about 7 or 8 minutes for your cabinet meeting. Make sure, directors, to invest in shields and thumbs up as needed. Use your 10 coins for that. Your 11th coin you can save or you can give to the Minister of Finance. We wish you success, sending you all to go and make decisions.
Everyone can talk, give advice. Remember, the journalist has sources, and assume the media is going to be listening and reporting what they think about your situation. Journalists, you might want to be ready for a short 1-minute interview with regional TV if time allows.
Go for it. 7 minutes. Good luck making decisions. Let's send people into breakout groups. All right, people are coming back. Whew. I'm sure that you felt a lot of pressure, but imagine the pressure felt by the real ministers and directors when there's no time, there's family health problems, the computer is not working, and so on. So in a way, you just experience what real decision makers experience when confronting difficult choices. Would the Minister of Finance share briefly what, if any, choices they made regarding those instruments?
So regional resilience, we went with a very aggressive approach as well. So we purchased the big insurance policy. Given some of our ministers also pointed out, it did not make sense to purchase a small insurance policy as well as a big insurance policy. but we also saw the competition relating to the contingent credit as well. So we went with a more aggressive strategy given the resources that we actually have. Thanks.
And did you submit a contingent loan proposal?
No, we didn't. We only purchased the big insurance policy.
And how about the other minister?
So, you know, we lost a bit of trust for the insurance sector in general because we did not receive a payout for our last crisis, though we were assured that we would. And so we decided to go instead for the contingent loan because we could set the terms, we could be in control. And, you know, we had one director that had a broken heart. So I wanted to encourage her to actually invest in more shields, but she was so brokenhearted that she actually left the cabinet and has not been replaced yet. So we have a pretty, we have a hole left in transport that I'm hoping does not get hit this year. Yeah.
It happens. All right, time to see.
Well, let's draw your hurricane cards and see which countries might be facing hurricanes this season. Shuffle the cards. We're going to draw cards for each team. Let's see, we'll start with the...
what was their names?
Resilience for All. We have drawn a small hurricane this year.
All right.
Okay.
This is what you will be rolling.
Regional resilience. Let's shuffle again.
Yeah.
And take one off the top. Let's see.
Another
small hurricane for you as well. I'll shuffle more. Okay, I see that coming up on the screen. And our Brussels fighters, our last country. Let's see. No hurricane.
Some sigh of relief. So, David, let's agree to yes, grant that contingent loan, which should have been agreed upon before knowing what the hurricane is, but it looked like it sounded like a good deal. So the hurricane season is starting. These financial transactions will take a little bit of time, so you may not see the payout or the money coming in according to your terms until a little bit later. So maybe not for the first roll, but possibly by the second. And David, we're ready to roll.
Minister of Finance would like to make a protest. We don't actually know the conditions of that of contingent loan that's actually being given to this other country. So we would like to know in terms of transparency what those conditions are.
You shall receive an email with that. It is now the season, so we will start rolling. Also, we want to honor the fact that in 6 minutes some people may want to leave, and then we may share that.
The lending institution likes to maintain the privacy of its clients and lenders, but we hope that maybe you'll be in a region where sharing knowledge can help to strengthen the financial protection, the allocation of risk financing, and the kinds of instruments that you would like to be offered by talking with each other at the end of this season.
Well, I lament saying that we already had our first event coming, and David, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that our island nation got a 6, and I already lost my only shield. I'm not happy about this.
Yeah, so this tourism minister, that director is so greedy, just wants to go for those prosperity points. Very risky to only invest in one shield.
Looks like the other team with Mary as minister also got affected by a shock.
Looks like Brussels fighters is in crisis, although not in the path of a hurricane. The 6 could be extreme rainfall, very likely, could be some kind of another shock hitting Brussels fighters.
And as we heard from Mary, the director of transport was not there to make decisions. No shield, so a broken heart happening. And even if Madam Minister of Finance sends coins, no one's there to do the paperwork to make stuff happen. I am sorry, dear friends. Moving on. Uh-oh. Looks like we got another shock in our nation. Dear Mr. Minister of Finance, can I beg for some coins? I don't know if you've received a payout from the big insurance. I only have one coin that I can use. I'm very tempted to use some of those extra coins, but they're not mine. All right, thank you very much. Minister of Finance has kindly shared some of the budget for emergency crisis response. I now am pushing the button, crisis averted. Whew. But that was 2 out of 10. Moving on. Oh, come on. Another one.
Yeah. So these sectors that don't bother to invest in their own protection, they're really putting a burden on the state, aren't they? Minister of Finance's resources are being called again to support the transport ministry.
Of course, I will beg the Minister of Finance again, but I see that Nati, the Director of Emergency Management, also has an ongoing crisis and also is likely to need a coin. Mr. Minister, your choice. I will happily take your coin if you have any left.
I'm in crisis as well, Minister. Just putting that out there, Director of Transport.
And in breaking news, this is a heavy hurricane season hitting the region. One out of 3 directors has been able to resolve their crisis. So we still have 2 sectors in crisis.
And time is running out. So David, we have to roll the next die in a few seconds. Minister of Finance, do what you can with the time and money you have.
Transport, you have 1 coin available. That's not enough. You need 2 to respond to the crisis to prevent a broken heart. Time is running out. Coffers are drained.
And next roll.
I certainly got a broken heart.
8, 6, and 6.
Oh, no.
Oh, my word.
And I got another one of those. Mr. Minister, do you have any coins left?
So this is starting to look like the year when we had Irma and Maria, one extreme hurricane after another.
It's interesting because the payout for the small hurricane wasn't too big, even for the big insurance. So it costs so much to pay for it that we don't have that much. I think we can move on, Mr. Nature.
All right. Next roll.
Oh,
5, 6, and 5.
I can see that our Director of Emergency Management has run out of thumbs up. This is most unfortunate, exactly when we need her most. Nati, we are feeling for you. I hope you're also feeling for me despite my irresponsible behavior. I got 2 broken hearts. And let's move on, David.
All right. 3, 2, and 6.
Finally, a bit of relief.
Well, speak for yourself.
Look at Mary's team. 0 broken hearts despite all those shocks.
3 are all 3s.
So
Well, our
maybe,
transport sector is completely destroyed, but
right. I should have said, of the cabinet positions that are occupied, you have managed in part with your insurance payout to manage all the shocks that have been coming, except for the transportation sector, which is in deep trouble.
Well, they actually went for the contingent loan.
yes, so I'll thank the
All
EU for
right.
that. Yeah, thank you very much, EU.
All right, 3 rolls to go.
All right. Next roll, 1, 4, and 5.
Thank nature. 2 to go.
7, 5, and 4.
Resilience for all has a crisis.
Look at those crises being averted. Josias just spent money just in time. Twice we can tell that crises have been averted in the director of tourism for that nation. Now, Hugo was in trouble. Looks like Hugo, director of food and agriculture, also just averted the crisis. Madam Minister of Finance seems to have only 1 coin left. Good luck. Last roll.
Last roll, 3, 8, and 2.
Oh, well,
Okay.
trouble has
That
happened.
Yeah.
And guess what? Some of us are in deep, deep trouble. Not everyone, though. I want to profusely congratulate Iria, Director of Emergency Management, Josias, Director of Tourism, Hugo, Director of Food and Agriculture, and by extension, Mary, Minister of Finance, for having managed so much. Our time is formally up, so there may be some of you who need to step out. For those of you who have to, thank you for joining us. We started a bit late, so if you can stay, we welcome some debriefing.
So we want to give our condolences first to all the countries with broken hearts who are now at the bottom of the ranking. But if you can stay, maybe we can get some insight from you. What do you think would help to do better next season? We also might have a quick newsflash interview with one of our journalists to get a handle on what kinds of trade-offs were being discussed in some of the countries. Thank you for your participation in this global launch of the Hurricane Hurry game. We hope that it's given you a taste of the very real disaster risk financing opportunities as well as instruments that are available for countries to try to build more resilient strategies for protecting themselves in the event of an extreme event using the best available information.
Colleagues from the World Bank, over to you.
Thank you very much, everyone. It would be especially helpful to know if we can stay a few minutes and have some conversations with participants who have remained to get some of your reactions to the decision making.
Sorry, I have to go. Sorry. Bye.
I'm going to put it back on gallery. Iria, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I will. So because you fared pretty well as Director of Emergency Management, what were some of the thoughts that were going through your head as you were choosing thumbs up or shields?
Well, I thought because the previous round we invested in insurance, and as Janat said, and I thought about it as well, sometimes insurance doesn't cover major events or just cover, just cover some events, certain events, and it's better to invest in protection or invest public resources into something more tangible instead of paying some insurance that may not cover all expenses. So basically, I took this strategy more risk adverse, especially since my condition was being the director of the emergency management, right? So it looks like it's better to keep that approach.
Great, thank you. Anyone else wanted to share some reflections?
Mary, it'll be like the emotions that we kind of felt, about shortness of time to make the decisions, the anxiety, I think, and kind of confusion as well. So I'm trying to make all these decisions that spontaneous. So I think that was actually a challenge as well, that in real life that actually would be mimicked. And we all know some of the islands where we have these particular issues where multiple events have actually occurred, but also some of the best laid plans have actually not come to pass, right, for very different reasons. Thanks.
I can tell you as a facilitator that I felt a lot of anxiety about people having the ability to actually discuss before they made their decisions. And I was wondering whether there was enough time for people to make the best decision. I was worried that there might be regrets when the time was up, that you might have wanted to change. And I was also concerned that without the ability for the cabinet to really assess together how they did and whether their strategy, as Maria was mentioning, was effective, or they'd like to change their strategy, I'm not sure that we gave you enough time to do all of that. But I also wonder how close this game feels to real world decisions year after year as we face known unknowns, especially in island nations.
One invitation is, would anyone, World Bank colleagues, GFDRR colleagues, other colleagues, go to the chat and write one short thing that happened to you or through you, or that you figured out. It can be one word, an emotion. It can be a few words, an insight. It can be a reflection about disaster risk financing instruments, or what can the World Bank do with partners like the EU to make more better. Let's give you 30 seconds or less. Type something in the chat.
Something that relates your game experience to your real world responsibilities.
We see some of the gratitude being expressed by Hugo. And that, of course, was possible because the Minister of Finance had secured a financial instrument that managed to deal with disaster risk.
Yeah. Standards and interoperability, the importance of data and open data to make informed or risk-informed decisions. Excellent point.
Rosella, can we invite you to elaborate on your comment about risk layering?
I think it comes a bit from all the other comments. I mean, I wrote it before, but it can basically getting to understand your risk, the looking up the risk data, all the elements you need to make the decisions, to then have a set of instruments that would cover, you know, the risk that you're facing and be appropriated for each of the events that your country faces. So it's, in an ideal world.
This is an excellent point. You know, what are the best instruments for the different levels of risk that we're facing? So there are some risks that can actually be addressed with the sectoral budgets. But then when we have an extreme event, you know, like a small hurricane or a large hurricane that really exceeds the ability of the sector and maybe even of the nation, this is where different kinds of instruments, perhaps multiple instruments, could complement each other. I'm wondering how those who played the game feel if you could play another round. What combinations of instruments do you think would work the best for you?
Sebastian, especially, you shared something about communication coordination. What's your insight there?
Well, I think that the key one of the key moments of the game was the 7 to 8 minutes that we had at the beginning of each season to kind of plan out some sort of strategy, even though we obviously had no idea what could be occurring, but to make sure that all the ministries were on the same page. And I think, yeah, making sure that one ministry didn't, making sure that the common front that we projected was, we didn't have one minister investing everything in protection while the other one is investing everything in an aggressive strategy. So just like making sure that, yeah, we're all on the same page, I think was, and just like making sure that, yeah, we all agreed on the insurance strategy that we agreed upon. I think that was, so I think, yeah, that was one of the more important moments of the game.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sebastian. And, to yes, and could I pass it over to you, Carrie, because you described a very similar struggle, managing your own ministry while adjusting to others' decisions. What insight can you take away from that experience of anxiety?
So Sebastian and I were in the same team. So really just building on his point, I found myself not only making decisions of thumbs up and shields from my ministry, but then also I would adjust, like if there was another minister that was more risky in their decisions or more risk averse, because I was then beginning to think of what the Minister of Finance would have to go through and if they would be able to allocate funding for all of the ministers. So there was a lot more anxiety added because it wasn't just my ministry, but also, the entire country that I was making decisions for.
Good minister.
And one of the reasons why Jano and I, with our collaborators from Good Games, Good Focus, have been embarking on this approach is that it finally brings to events like this ACP event the part of the real world that matters most, which is how are we going to work together when information is incomplete, time is tight, financial instruments are complex, and what you just described, how Kerry and Sebastian were adjusting based on what someone else was doing, that doesn't happen too frequently. May we invite a news flash, very quick reporting from our journalists in the room, 30 seconds or less. What can you tell from the media's perspective?
Mark, what kind of trade-offs were you observing?
It was interesting to see people sort of think through everything so much, and so ultimately kind of the Minister of Finance ultimately ended up being, at least in my experience, the person that really had to make the decisions. Support from the cabinet came in, but really followed their lead, which was nice, but it does make that you need a really solid Minister of Finance to move forward. But, our country was devastated by hurricanes, and I think we became a little bit complacent by having such great seasons beforehand and hoping that an insurance policy would come in, and it really, really devastated us. So it was, but I feel like we had strong leadership. We had more hurricanes than we could handle. So
sounds familiar, doesn't it? So we are now a little past our time for ending. We are very grateful for the opportunity to support World Bank. Some closing remarks, and then we'll wrap up.
Thanks, Pablo. Just again, wanted to thank everyone for participating, and I hope now you've understood a bit more about how helpful some of these innovative learning tools can be in helping countries to really understand what it's like to make decisions in these complex environments and what's at stake and how they can plan ahead for these shocks. So thank you for also helping us to further develop this tool as we take it back to our countries. Thanks again.